Good morning, students. Welcome to SRVPS Virtual Classrooms. Students, today we are going to start our second chapter of Flamingo. If a plant is not watered and its roots are not getting water enough, then we can't expect that plant to grow. Same happens with our society when our children are deprived of basic amenities or they are not getting proper exposure to education and are not getting opportunity to grow. So, it's our duty to work collectively for their upliftment. With this note, let's start today's class. We are going to start our next chapter in Flamingo, and that is The Lost Spring Stories of Stolen Childhood by Anis Jung. Anis Jung is well-known journalist, writer of Unveiling India, and she wrote this book, The Lost Spring Stories of Stolen Childhood, based on her experience with street children. The Lost Spring is an extract from Anis Jung's book Lost Spring Stories of Stolen Childhood. In this excerpt, Anis expresses her concern about the exploitation of children. Anis argues that abject poverty results in the loss of innocence and education during childhood. The result is submission of exploitation and acceptance of poverty as destiny. There is a dire need to provide these poverty stricken people, particularly children, a life of dignity and opportunities to dare, dream, and act freely. This chapter has two stories. First heading is Sometimes I Find a Rupee in the Garbage. The second one is I Want to Drive a Car. The first story, Sometimes I Find a Rupee in the Garbage, is a story of Sahib, whose full name is Sahib-e-Alam, which means Lord of Universe. He is a rag picker. He belongs to a refugee family from Bangladesh who left their place Dhaka and reached New Delhi and established in Simapuri at the periphery of Delhi. They came there because storm had destroyed their homes. Now, children, do you know what more reasons can be for the migration of people from villages to cities? I know many of you can answer that. Let's find few. In search of new and better life. Yes, they come here in search of new and better life to earn money, and sometimes they get away from the deep rooted traditions and customs, right? There might be many other reasons for the migration, and here we found that they migrated from their place because of natural calamity. Do they get for what they left their native land? Most of the time, no. Here also we can see Sahib rag pickers, they are street children. And now let's have a look into our text. So you can notice here Sahib, whose name is Sahib-e-Alam, meaning Lord of Universe. Here writer has used irony. And then she compares the barefoot boys with army. So here metaphor is used. So how she has compared, because barefoot boys, they also struggle for survival as the struggleful life is of soldiers, right? Now the next comparison is they appear like the morning birds and disappear at noon. So these children also come out of their homes in search of food, and when it is noon they go back to their houses just like birds. So here figure of speech, that is simile, is used. When Anis meets Sahib, who is a rag picker, she asks him why he doesn't go to school. He answers, he doesn't have anyone in the neighborhood. Out of enthusiasm to help that boy, Jung promises that she will open a school in his neighborhood, but later feels embarrassed because she has no intention to keep that promise. Over a period, she meets more boys like Sahib and notices that none of these children have worn shoes. When she asks them, they make many excuses. Some of them say that they don't have resources, and sometimes they don't have habit. Many of them replies that there is no tradition to wear footwear. Now here, writer Ennis gives us one example to prove her point. Let's see that. This is again an extract from your text. She has a belief that this reason of being barefooted is due to perpetual state of poverty. She proves it with this short story. It's about Udupi village where she visited once, and she saw that a priest boy, a young boy, used to pray for a pair of shoes. 30 years later, when it was revisited, she found many things changed there with changing time. Even the temple was also drowned in the air of desolation, means it was also completely deteriorated. It was ruined in there, and time had shown that impact. Not only that, even she found a young boy dressed in a grey uniform wearing socks and shoes. Now she could easily recall that this must be the son of that young boy who used to pray for a pair of shoes. So here she found that even after 30 years, maybe that was a long period, but with passage of time, change occurred and the restrictions on the name of tradition could be changed, could be removed. But what about these rag pickers in her neighborhood? They remain shoeless for last 30 years. And that's why she believes that perpetual state of poverty only was the reason behind being barefooted. Right? Now, is more familiar with them, so she visits their place, and that is Simapuri. Now, in Simapuri, she finds that they do have Indian ration card, which politicians might have got it there just to have their names in voters card, but they were deprived of all basic amenities. Let's find how she explains that thing. She explains here that she visits Simapuri, and which is a place on the periphery of Delhi, yet miles away from it metaphorically. Now, geographically, we find Simapuri at the border of Delhi only. But if we compare the status, we compare the standard of living, we compare the infrastructure, we find that Simapuri is far, far away from Delhi. Right? So that is what she is trying to highlight. Why she says that? Because she finds there the structures of mud with roofs of tin tarpaulin, and though they were living there from last 30 years. Okay, so but still they were there only, they were living there because for them food is more important for survival than an identity. This is the reason they are not getting any basic amenities, but they are forced to live there till the time they are able to feed their families. Right? Now they are having these kind of houses. So see here what they again share. You can find here, they just say that they don't want to go to those fields where they never get any grain. They are not expecting any grain. And what is the impact of that on children? Children grow up with them. These transit homes, means they are roaming from one place to another place, right? So children grow up with them and they become partners in survival. They are no more dependents. They are partners of survival. And with the passage of time, these rag pickers acquire a proportion of fine art. Using hyperbole, writer is trying to highlight that how much expert they become in this, which is the only means of survival in Simapuri. And this garbage for them becomes a gold. As the gold is a symbol of wealth, richness, money, and which brings all kind of richness in our life. And for them, garbage is gold, because garbage is the only source of income for them. And they are totally, their bread, their roof, everything is dependent on that garbage only. Right? So this way, writer has tried to highlight their miserable condition. See, the children even find themselves exposed to a world of wonder. Garbage for them is a world of wonder because they find many things and they need from those discarded things only. So now we have learnt about their condition. Can you guess what is Sahib looking for in the garbage dump? Yes, anything, money sometime. Anything what they are looking for, and sometimes something which is valuable, which can pay them by selling those discarded things, or they can reuse them even if it is discarded one. That makes garbage gold for them, because sometimes they find even rupee and even 10 rupee note also. If once they find, you can imagine easily that how they become curious to get it again. So hope increases, and for children, that is wrapped in the wonder, because they get many things, they explore, they get new things there only. One aspect of Sahib is revealed by the author, that when she meets him again and again, she can find that spark in Sahib, that he has that spark of to love to play tennis, but which is unaffordable. Means he still has that daring attitude to dream about the things there. So once she finds Sahib wearing tennis shoes, and though she is not asking about the thing, it was not matching with his shirt and shorts, but he explains that this line is just able to highlight the that fear in the mind of these rag pickers. Even if they take a discarded thing, they feel that as if they need to explain it from where they got it. Means that doesn't suit them, that they can't afford that, even those discarded things. So this is to highlight their miserable condition. Moreover, later on, this author finds him working on a milk booth. Means getting frustrated by this deprived condition, so many a time they shift to this status. What is that? Being a child labor. And here also we can see that Sahib joins a milk booth. Now there he has left rag picking, but now he is working on a tea stall. Now can you tell, do you feel that being a rag picker, he was happy, or after getting 800 rupees 2 times meal, working at in a fixed schedule at tea stall, that is more important? Let's see what is there. So is Sahib happy working at tea stall? No, because there he lost his freedom. Not, and he is no more his own master. So by introducing this particular aspect, Anis somewhere is trying to highlight that even working as a child labor, when these children, these street children, are forced to work as a child labor, their life becomes more miserable, right? It's not a good aspect there. So that is all about Sahib's story, and which Anis Jung brought in with her experience with these street children. We have learned about all these figure of speech, literary devices used in our text. Let's have a quick revision of that. Sahib-e-Alam, which means Lord of Universe, is directly in contrast to what Sahib is in reality. So which figure of speech is used here? Irony. Drowned in an air of desolation about the temple, it is hyperbole because it's ruining condition. Sometimes it is being taken as a metaphor, but it's not complete one, so we will take it exaggerated explanation of temple being ruined, right, with the passage of time. Now next is Simapuri, a place on the periphery. So this line has irony in itself, because in spite of being so close to Delhi, in spite of being so near to Delhi, it has a totally miserable condition, so far away from Delhi's condition, amenities. So that is ironical, and yes, it is metaphor also, because Simapuri depicts that condition, that slum area, and Delhi is just about those posh area, you can say, and that standard of living. For children it is wrapped in wonder, and for elders it's a contrast that writer has used to highlight the things to make it more clear. Let's have a look on the other figure of speech used. So scrounging for gold is metaphor and hyperbole both. I have already explained. Now survival in Simapuri means rag picking through years. It has acquired a proportions of fine art, that is hyperbole. Steel canister is a paradoxical statement, and writer has used metaphor here to establish that by comparing his condition there with that heaviness of steel canister and that of the plastic bag. Okay, so this is all about its figure of speech used in the text, and now the theme already we have discussed, that it is about miserable plight of the street children who are forced into child labor. Let's have a recap. We learned about Sahib, whose name is Sahib-e-Alam. He belongs to rag pickers family, and those who are refugee from Bangladesh, right? And we know that after being rag picker, he became a child labor, right? That's about Sahib's story. I hope you learned and his story touched your heart. And I have already shared your homework in your Dropbox. Go for it. Question answers are also discussed. And we have learned about figures of speech used in this text also. We are going to have the second part, the second story under the same heading, Lost Spring, in the next class. Till then, take care. Have a nice time. Bye bye. Thank you.